Hey, happy spring and welcome to March Madness. If you have been following me for any length of time, you know that I am a die-hard college football fan. Go Green! But I also absolutely love this time of year and March Madness. And when I start watching the games, and especially in the very beginning when all 64 teams are still in it, I always love thinking about Cinderella stories, the underdog who is going to make their way far into the tournament. I love thinking about how some lesser known schools are getting a national spotlight. Think about Queen's University from Charlotte, Siena from Albany, New York, even High Point. Thinking about places that many families maybe haven't heard of, depending on where you are in the country. And it's just a great way for these schools to have exposure. Oftentimes I like to talk to them about the schools in the tournament that maybe they haven't heard of, and it's just a conversation starter and a reason for us to think outside the box a little bit. And so you may be listening this far and going, what in the world does it even have to do with college guidance? But again, we're talking about colleges, and I think one of the most important factors, if you haven't already heard me say this, is helping students develop a broad, well thought out list of colleges to explore. And that means at times taking them out of what is their normal comfort zone and introducing them to some of these places that are maybe lesser known, at least to them, in this process. It also ties into helping students find the right fit. Just because a school doesn't have broad name recognition or a certain amount of prestige certainly doesn't mean it's not a good place. It might be the actual best place for a particular student that I'm working with. And so exposure to those types of places is really important, because otherwise students and their parents, you all, might not even know that they exist if I didn't make those types of suggestions for them. The other thing that happens a lot in March, or at this general time of year in the spring break trips. And I have a lot of juniors who are heading out on spring break trips with their families, and they are going to be visiting college campuses over the week that they have off. And what I say to every family who is headed out doing one of those tours is two things, actually. Take a minute to think about a school that maybe you wouldn't have necessarily opted to go see, except that you are now going to be in that general area. It's already, say you're already going to be in Boston, maybe you add a school that is not one of the name brand recognized places that is there, because there are plenty, or any other destination that you have. This is one of the things I work with our families on a lot of times, is just thinking outside the box and trying to add to the list in some kind of way. The other thing that I always recommend on these visits is try to do something beyond just the admissions office canned presentation and student-led tour. They are great resources and you should absolutely do them so that you have the information that they're providing. But when it comes to thinking beyond just what is the sales pitch of a particular college, it's really important that students and parents alike are hearing and seeing and experiencing other things. Eat a meal in the community somewhere. Pick up a student newspaper to find out what is the hot topic on campus right now. Talk to students on campus. Try to set up time with a professor in an academic area that the student is interested in. Ask questions about involvement in clubs and activities, and how easy is it actually to join the things that a student might be interested in. Thinking about what is it going to be like to live there? And I love admissions folks, don't get me wrong, but their job is to convince families, students specifically, to apply beyond what they're talking about. Try to dig in ways that are not scripted and not part of the process necessarily. And think about, what does your student, your child specifically have an interest in? And then use that as a tool to decide what are those extra experiences that you're going to have in the process. So thinking about how to maximize your time, how to make sure that you're seeing a variety of places. I think that's really crucial. I think that one of the mistakes I see a lot of families make is coming into this process assuming that the student has it all figured out, that they only want a particular type of school. But when I question or discuss with the student, oftentimes they don't know because they haven't seen anything else to compare it to. So I think that is a really big missed opportunity a lot of times in this process, because comparing and contrasting is really important. It helps you hone in on what is the most best fit, but also making sure that you're not missing something that might be a really great opportunity as well. So again, going back to the original analogy that I started with in terms of March Madness, there's so many great schools out there, and some of them you haven't heard of. But again, that doesn't mean they aren't great places. And I think it's really a big mistake to not build the list with an open mind and really looking at a variety of factors before we really narrow it down to what is the best fit, which ties back into Cinderella. You got to have the right fit. The slipper needs to be on your foot. So I hope that March is not crazy, but I hope that you enjoy it, however you're spending it. And if spring break college visits are in the plans, I hope that you will consider looking at something that maybe wasn't necessarily on the radar from the very beginning, but it might just, again, be a good way to check out the data and the vibe and the overall perspective of what two different types of schools might feel like for your child. Also, for parents, it's not a bad idea for you to also keep open minds in this process, because your beliefs and expectations and experiences from a generation ago are different than your own child's, but also things have changed on college campuses in a lot of ways. So please bear that in mind as you walk through this with your child. And again, remember, it has to be the right fit. That is what we are going for. If you have questions about what fit really means, how do we narrow it down, we are here to help, and we would love to talk to you about it.